Apple season and Apple's iPhone 15 series is just a few hours away. At 10:30 p.m., the brand's annual flagship event, Wanderlust, will be beamed live from Cupertino, with CEO Tim Cook unveiling spanking new products, as is Apple tradition. You can expect 4 new iPhone 15 models, 2 base and 2 Pro models, Watch Series 9 and second edition of the Watch Ultra, iPads, AirPods, and upgrades to most of these products. The biggest change could be seen in form of the brand deciding to ditch the Lightning charger and shifting to USB Type-C charging. And secondly, for the first time, the new models could be made in India, at least for the first batch. Does that mean good news considering local manufacturing? Does that mean good news for users like you and I? And will we see Apple finally offering cheaper iPhones? Decoding all of that and more with our two guests tonight, Navkendra Singh, AVP IDC India, and Ray Wang, Principal Analyst and Founder, Constellation Research. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening on ET Now.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you, Sumita.
Right. So first, Navkendra, let me come to you first. Will iPhones finally not pinch my pocket? You've tracked the brand and this sector for a very long time. Give us the good news if there is already.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be not bring you very good news. We don't think that this manufacturing in India or assemble in India will lead to any price cuts or relaxation in the increased pricing for India market. This certainly augurs well for India manufacturing prowess, because in the first wave, Make in India will be there. But we don't think Apple will be reducing the prices, at least for the new models. Obviously, it's the festive season. So if somebody wants to buy iPhone 14 or iPhone 13 or N-1, N-2 model, those certainly will be discounted, but that's irrespective of the launches. So the prices will not be decrease. Right. We should expect some increase at least.
Some increase at least. So Ray, on this point, let me come to you. What are the key upgrades to the models that one can really expect for? What are going to be the big features, and how much are these phones likely to cost this year in terms of, with respect to the reported upgrades?
Yeah, no, I think one of the big things that we're going to see in this is really thinking about what the new telephoto lens may look like. There's a rumor about that, putting in the highest models. We're also saying what's the use of the A17 chip, and of course, some of the advancements that are going to happen in iOS 17. Those are going to be the big things. And of course, there's the European compliance that's required for the USB-C, and that's going to change what charging standards are there. But it's also going to be wireless charging, and they're going to look to see if Apple is going to take the open standards for wireless charging. Those are probably the big features people will see. And of course, always a better phone, better battery life. Those are things that people do expect. And then of course, people are looking to see if the Apple Watch gets an upgrade in Series 9, and also if there's brand new AirPods. So I think that's what we're waiting for here, live here in Cupertino. So.
Right, but how do you rate those upgrades?
How do we rate those upgrades? Well, it really depends. The big question you have to ask yourself is, do you have a 5G
there's
phone?
been one criticism that's often... Right. I think the criticism that's often been leveled against Apple is that it has slowed down as far as innovation in products is concerned. So how do you rate those upgrades?
Well, I think one way to look at it is there's features on the phone, right? But then there's also features in the iOS. And I think we've seen a lot of improvements in iOS, some of the capabilities in AI and the chips, some of the abilities, as you can see, computational photography. Sometimes you take a picture, it's not necessarily the best. Those types of improvements, those are the ones that happen in the background. And those ambient experiences are the ones that I think Apple has made a lot of improvements in. And then, of course, we don't talk about battery life anymore, right? And of course, you'll probably get more pixels on the phone. But at some point, the hardware innovations get outpaced by the services innovations and what features and services you can access on the phone. And I think that's what users are gravitating towards. And especially, this is a luxury product. This is not a commodity smartphone.
Right. At this point, let me come to you, Navkendra. Considering that iPhone sales have declined for 3 consecutive quarters, plus the other wrinkle for iPhone seems to be China's tech war with the United States, while India is coming out as a bright spot where sales have in fact been double-digit. How much more do you think the brand will try to sort of give to the Indian market in terms of trying to gather more revenue and more market share?
Well, India is one of the important markets for Apple. I mean, structurally, the market is very value conscious. We have 80% of our market is still less than $300. At the same time, Apple sell the phone at about $1,000, $1,050, $1,100, right? So, but they're still doing well while the whole market is declining. Premium products across categories, we've seen it in automotives, we've seen it in watches and in phones as well. Premium products are doing well. So to that extent, Apple is doing well. They did about 6.7 million units last year in 2022. We expect them to touch almost 9 million this year. So to that extent, they're doing very well. The only thing is, obviously, if they want to have more volumes, they want to reach tomorrow. They want to reach 20 million, 30 million. Possibly an emerging market focused SKU might be there, something like iPhone SE, which is at a palatable price point for the mass market, mid-premium market, like $350 to $500. But we don't know if that will happen. But considering the price point, they're doing very well. Marketing, they're investing a lot in marketing. The channels, they discount and give affordability offers on the N-1 model whenever the new phone is launched. We should expect that in the next 2-3 months as well.
Right, Ray, I want to understand here, how do you explain sales for, iPhone slumping for 3 quarters, and even now the management says that there could be some slowdown in the current quarter as well before demand actually starts picking up in the festive season. And how do you place India in that, considering that it's clocking double digits? In fact, even the export data is great.
Well, I can't really explain the sales decline, but we are in a super cycle, and that means there's a big refresh of 200 to 300 million iPhones, especially those that are trying to get to 5G, coming from an iPhone 11, iPhone 12. There's a lot of movement there. But I can explain what's going on in India, and I think one of the biggest things is India is the 5th largest market for Apple, following after US, China, Japan, and of course, what's going on. India is that next market where everything's going to happen. So US, China, Japan, UK is the big market. The next market is India, and with manufacturing coming there as a base, it's going to depend on how quickly semiconductor fab plants can get there. The supply chain gets built into India, but for the meantime, this is the biggest market in the world for Apple. That's the biggest market for most smartphones to penetrate, and of course, it is a luxury good, and so there is a limited amount of individuals that could potentially buy the iPhone, but that's 100 million folks that could buy an iPhone at the premium side, and that could be even up to 200 million, as Navkender said, basically, if they're coming in at an iPhone SE size, and that would be the difference and the game changer. Remember, it's not just selling the hardware, it's the services on the Apple other end, and it's those Apple services that actually add and compound to the average revenue per user.
Right. I also want to understand, the China perspective, considering that, China and US are locked in a tech tussle of sorts. And in fact, some, government employees have been told to not use iPhones. How long drawn do you think Apple's China woes are going to be? And hence, do you see a significant chunk of that actually manufacturing and production move to India then?
Sorry, that's for me.
Ray.
Yeah. On our end, I would actually say that we're going to continue to see that shift. Depending on how the Chinese government reacts. If the Chinese government continues to create bans, I think you're going to see a continued movement. Most operations and most U.S. companies in China have looked at resiliency. So it's a China plus strategy in terms of moving things offshore to Vietnam, to Indonesia, to Thailand, to other areas where they can actually get to that level of scale. India is the biggest opportunity, not just because of the market, but also because of the opportunity to rebuild the semiconductor supply chain there. Especially in terms of the U.S.-China global tensions, and of course, the tensions across all supply chains at this moment, depending on Taiwan.
Right. And Navkender, do you want to weigh in on this as well?
Yeah, we have to see. I mean, it as Ray said, China plus one, so it can be Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, and other places. I mean, technically, if you see, Apple can produce some of the iPads in a country like Vietnam. They're still not choosing to do that. And Apple noticeably did not participate in the PLI for the laptops, which happened last week, right? So they're also meaningfully saying that, how far we can go in assembling in India. We still don't have pro models coming out of India. So we have to take it with a pinch of salt that how much can move to India from China. Outside China certainly is a possibility, but it will be spread out and they will have their own risk and rewards and they will have to manage their supply chains.
All right. On that note, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening on Rush Hour. Really appreciate you taking out time to join us this evening. and all eyes are on tonight's event as Tim Cook makes those very, very critical and important announcements on the product and, of course, the pricing. And, of course, we'll be bringing you all the latest updates to you right here on ET Now.